Welcome to the September 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held via video teleconferencing in accordance with Governor Cuomo's Order 202.1, and until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely, so we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. There are also options on the website for public comments and to pre-register to speak on public hearings, so please consider that for all future meetings. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meetings. Please go to the town's meeting portal, choose the meeting group from the drop-down on the left, and click on the live link at the top of the page. If you wish to be heard during a meeting but did not pre-register, please go to the town's meeting portal, choose the meeting group from the drop-down on the left, and you will find the information required to join the Zoom meeting. With that, I ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
United States of America, and to the republic which stands
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will mute the speakers until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you have difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the hearing. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until October 5th, 2020. Those comments can be addressed to the board secretary and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall. Additionally, in accordance with the governor's order, these hearings will be recorded and will be posted on the town's website. And with that, I would make a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
second,
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
aye,
Hahn.
Aye.
Daly.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Tessa.
Aye.
Vote aye. And now we can start with adjournments on the agenda.
Okay. There are changes to the agenda. We will go over this now. Item 1 on the agenda is 89 Hayground Cove LLC, 89 Hayground Cove Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-102-3-14.46. I move that we re-advertise to this application to our October 1st meeting.
Okay, it's a re-add, so we don't have to vote.
Okay. The next item I have is item 6 on the agenda, which is Charles and Stacy Comiskey, 140 Cold Spring Road, Point Road in Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-155-1-15.1. Move to re-advertise that to 10-1.
Okay, don't need to vote on that either. It's a re-add.
Right. Item 7 on the agenda, which is Antoinette Novick, 104 Old Country Road, in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-340-1-4. Going to adjourn that to our October 1st meeting.
We have a second.
Second.
Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Burgess.
aye,
Daly.
Aye.
Tessa.
Aye.
Vote aye.
Okay, then we're going to go to item 12, which is John Nicoletti, 26 Club Lane in Remsenburg/Spion, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-380-2-62.1, adjourned to our September 17th meeting.
We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
All right,
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Well, I'm not sure who's the second. Might have been somebody else. Anyway, it was you, Cornelius, the second?
Sure, yep, second. Aye.
Okay. Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Sessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
okay, item 13 on the agenda, which is Robert Raphael, 639 Dune Road in West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-391-2-28. Gonna move to adjourn that to our November 19th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye,
Sessa,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Hahn,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
okay, on the decision calendar, we have Edward Zaplonsky. We're gonna adjourn that decision to our September 3rd meeting.
We have a second.
Yes. Somebody call me?
September 17th.
Yes. September, you said,
17th? I stand corrected. It goes to, we're gonna adjourn that to our 9/17 meeting. How's that?
Second.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Portions, not all portions are not all the portions.
John, you gotta mute yourself.
Sorry.
Okay, the decision calendar, I got Gregory O'Halloran and Marlene O'Halloran. I need to make a motion to reopen.
We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Sessa,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Burgess.
Aye.
Sorry, we're reopened.
Okay, very good. Then it's reopened, and I guess we need to close it. No, I'm gonna re-advertise it for October 15th.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Sessa,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Hahn,
Aye.
Burgess,
Aye.
Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, then we have Frederick Van Wyck. I want to move to reopen that, please.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Burgess,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Sessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopen.
Okay, we want to accept what written submissions we need to accept at this point, but I also want to close it. So the written subs, any further written subs, have to be to us by Friday, 9/11 at 3 p.m.
Okay. And then my guess is it'll be on decision September 17th.
I don't have that. I don't have that information. When's it going to be?
Yes, 17th.
Second.
Okay. Who did the second?
I did.
Point is,
Mr. Tudhill,
aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Hahn,
Aye.
Burgess,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Sessa.
Aye.
What's on?
Okay, and then also on the decision calendar, I have KAARP Management Group, LLC. Gonna move to reopen that, please.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Burgess,
Aye.
Daly,
Aye.
Hahn,
Aye.
Sessa.
Aye.
What's on? Reopen.
Okay, and that's to accept any written submissions we have, and then any other further written submissions with a close determination on 9/17.
So is the deadline for written submissions the 17th?
I have an August 17th here. I mean, so that's come and gone. So we accept those written subs, and then I'll move to close it with a determination on 9/17. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Good.
Second.
Okay. Just wanted to make it clear. Mr. Tuthill.
Yeah. Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Curtis.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa. Brian, can you hear me?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. Grossman. The other one I got is OPH Building Corp. I'm going to move to reopen that also.
Okay, do we have a
Second.
Mr. Tuthill?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Curtis?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're reopened.
Okay, and that's the purpose of that is to accept any written submissions that are there, and then I'll move to close this application for a determination tonight.
Second.
Hill?
Aye. I'm sorry.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
Daly?
Aye.
DeSessa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, that's all I got for the time being right now. So we're going to go back to the beginning of the agenda, everyone. And we're going to call item number 2.
Wait, Keith, I'm sorry, hold on a minute.
Yeah. A
We have
couple
to
of,
do Christopher Norwood and Old Quag Development.
Those are grayed out, yeah.
Those are both adjourned to 9/17.
Whatever. Somebody who's got that agenda with the gray out, could somebody do that? And please call it and make whatever motion has to be done, please.
I'll make a motion that the application of Christopher Norwood and the application of Old Quag Development LLC, that both of which are on decision this evening, both be adjourned for decision until our next meeting, which is September 17th.
Second.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Burtis?
Aye.
Tuthill?
Aye.
Daly?
Aye.
DeSessa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, item 2 on the agenda is JAB, as in Jab, Properties Associates LP, 299 County Road, 39A in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-132-2-27. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-105K. Schedules of minimum and maximum floor area to permit additions totaling 5,390 square feet, 1,451 square foot enclosure over roofed area, 2,678 square foot addition to the service department, and 1,261 square foot enclosure of roof display area to an existing 17,444 square foot building with a maximum gross floor area per building or building complex in the highway business zoning district shall not exceed 15,000 square feet per lot, and Town Code 330-83G1A yards to permit a transitional rear yard of 10 feet where 50 feet is required to adjoining residential districts to permit the expansion of the existing vehicle storage area and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Good evening, John Bennett for the applicant, and Greg Basmajian is the project architect who's here to answer any questions if you have them, and Mike Sciano from InterScience. Should I proceed?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. This is similar to the application that you folks were kind enough to grant for the Mercedes dealership just outside the village. And what we're trying to do here is something very similar, which is to sort of bring these automobile dealerships into the future, or rather the current time, I should say, in terms of how service is handled, and also to increase the service area that's available for servicing cars, and to enclose some of the space that's currently outside display. So we have a dealership that's 17,444 square feet, and we want to increase it by 5,390. There's really three pods of increase. And I don't know if anyone, if you have, probably the survey that you folks have is the easiest way to look at the Squires and Holden survey. If you're looking at the building in the north-south, the survey north-south direction, in the southeasterly portion, all of these additions are on the east side of the building, but in the southeasterly portion, you see existing roofed over vehicle display. And that's an area, and we get this from the floor plans that Greg drew up. That's an area of 1,261 square feet. So what we'd like to do, similar to the Mercedes dealership, is to enclose that. So it's an area that's under existing use. It's existing roofed over. We simply want to enclose that. That's 1,261 square feet. Then there's another existing roofed over area of 14,051. That's just above or a little bit further to the east, on the east side of the building. Existing roofed over service drive to be enclosed. That's 1441. Thank you for the survey. Let's get down to it. Thank you very much. So the first pod, so to speak, that I spoke about, 1,200, I should say, 61 square feet. You can see it right there, existing roofed over vehicle display to be enclosed. So that's areas, there's roofed over it, the area is in use. We simply want to enclose that. And then moving to the north, well, just underneath where the little mitt is now, existing roofed over service drive to be enclosed. In a similar area, we would just want to do similar to what the Mercedes, you're kind enough to allow us to do with the Mercedes, to enclose that, because service, the interface between service and the customers now happens, like in the Mercedes place, in an enclosed area. And then finally, to add an addition, which in an area that doesn't improve, but is in the far back and doesn't really add to the mass of the building that much from the viewer on the highway. That's an area of, let me get it for you, 2,678 square feet. So again, why do we need this relief? Because the current code states that you can only have a 15,000 square foot building in the highway business zone. This building, which predates that limitation, is 17,444. And we want to add 5,390 in those three pods to bring the total up to 22,834. I would respectfully request that you take a look at some of the prior decisions on this. In these areas, we listed them Exhibit B. They're Exhibit B to the application, and one is they both deal with the Mercedes dealership. And what's important to note, I think, is that in both of those cases, the Zoning Board of Appeals recognized that the type of uses that the town was trying to prevent with this 15,000 square foot limitation were the big box stores. And in both those cases, the zoning board looked into the legislative history and the rationale for the 15,000 square foot limitation. And of course, this is not a big box store. This is not a big box retail store, what they call the downtown killers. These are buildings that are out on the highway where they belong, and they're for large, obviously for automobiles and automobile services. There was some thought in the town board many years ago of amending it to lift that limitation on 15,000 square feet for certain uses And the feedback that I got was, well, why don't you just let the zoning board deal with it on a case-by-case basis? Typically with uses like this, that's not what we were concerned about. They were concerned about, they didn't want like what do you call them, like a Costco or a BK's or something like that, that would obviously have a negative effect on the downtown areas in the town. So I give you that for your consideration. I think it's totally applicable here. We also looked around in the area, what kind of, what's the typical square footage of these sort of uses. We want to go to just shy of 26. Our proposal is a total of 22,834. The Mercedes-Benz dealership on County Road 39 is 27,000 square feet. A good deal of it as a result of your allowing us to do that. The Mini of Southampton is 27,000. I'm pretty sure that used to be the BMW place, but which is now shifted further to the west. But that's 27,000. So these are not unusual square foot sizes for automobile dealerships. And the other thing we would like to do so that we can increase the parking along the area is to get some relief on that transitional yard in the back. There's a residential zone into a highway business zone. So we proposed at its narrowest, I think it's 10 feet where 50 is required. I remember before he left as the land use czar, I previewing this application with Kyle Collins. And, he's obviously not employed by the town anymore, but I think what he said about it was very appropriate. He said, well, you have transitional yards so that residential uses are separated from commercial uses. That whole area back there is the ag reserve of a subdivision map. So the concern about separating uses, commercial uses from residential uses is not there because there are no residential uses back there. It's agricultural use. And it's similar to some of the relief that you gave us on the Mercedes place. That's generally what's going on here. I think we've given you some good precedent and good reason. Obviously, I'll answer any questions. Most of the proportion, almost a little bit more than half, I guess, of what we're proposing are presently roofed areas. Not really an undesirable change by any argument, because you're in a highway business area with good size highway business uses. That one-story addition, which is not an area which is roofed, is going to be essentially not visible from the road. And the total proposed expansion, the square footage after expansion is smaller than the dealerships in the surrounding area. Just two matters, if I may, and then of course ask any questions. We're going to have to ask the board. I don't think you could close it tonight anyway, because you have secret to deal with. So I'm going to ask you to adjourn it, but I'm also going to ask you to, we have to amend the application to request some relief for the parking spaces. So we're going to do that. I wanted to introduce the application to you this evening. I wanted to, I understood obviously we have to, it's a type 1 action, so there's a coordination required. The only reason it's a type 1 action is because the town has this rather unique section about uses over where the use would be more than 50 cars, 50 spaces. And by the way, that's 50 spaces, both existing and proposed. So I don't want you to think we're talking about 50 additional spaces. It's just if your ultimate project, is going to be 50. Anytime you have 50 parking spaces on a project, even if you were adding one, the town has this type 1 action thing. So we have to deal with that. You have to coordinate, and we are going to have to amend it. But I thought it was important to get this in. It did go to the planning board for an advisory report. I thought it was, as planning board reports go, okay. they didn't recommend denial. They talked about what percentage of the expansion it would be. I have Greg here, the architect, if you have any questions. But again, that's probably stuff, and we're here to go through the elevations if you'd like, but that's probably more planning board and ARB stuff, but up to you. So I guess I would ask you, unless there are any questions, I would just ask you to adjourn it for seeker coordination and so that we can amend the application to include the request for parking variances.
John, the only question I had was the adjacent property to the east, which is impacted arguably by this. Wanted to ask, I don't know if you have any information as to the nature of the business on that parcel and whether you've heard from that neighbor.
I don't believe so. Bailey Larkin is here with me. I don't believe so. What is that? Is that what is that over? Let me see if I can pull it up on, I'm embarrassed. I should know. I grew up here, so, what is that there? That's, I'm just looking at it on my little, Google Maps on my, so you've got the car dealership. That's Lexus. Is that Lexus there? Let me think about that. Yeah, is that Lexus there or is this Lexus? What's that? Is that Lexus? Oh, this car dealer. That's like, is that Don Mahoney's place? Is that the, I'll get you that information. That might be Don Mahoney's landscaping place.
Trying to get a sense of it because, they are the only parcel that's impacted. Arguably.
Yeah, we'll talk to them and see what they think about it. I think it's, I could be wrong. Let me see. Or maybe Don's parcel is to the East Crest Power Tool. Yeah, let me see what's there. I'll have that info for you, and we'll reach out to them and see if they care. To be direct, and we'll see what they say. Or maybe that's Don's business. That's B&N. I'm sorry. I think that might be Don Mahoney's business, but we'll reach out to him.
Thank you. Any other questions or members of the board?
I have a question, John. For the variance for the transition yard, you said the property to the north is it like dedicated ag reserve or it's just farmed?
No, it says subdivision map of Newberry Farms, map not 7042, file now for agricultural reserve area. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, just because it's in farming doesn't mean it couldn't, become, without that limitation, obviously it could come in the future to become residential, but that's part of the ag reserve.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the reasons, and again, Kyle's no longer an employee, but when we first vetted this application, he was like, there's no harm, no foul. You've got the ag reserve back there, so there's never going to be houses in that transitional area. And again, it's very similar. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
No, it's very similar to the Mercedes application, both in terms of what we're trying to do and the rationale for it. But that's all I have now. And unless you need the architect, we'll just ask you to, adjourn it.
That's what I was going to ask the board. Do you want to have more testimony now, or do you want to wait for the SECRA? Because for the Mercedes application, you did take testimony about, the enclosed area. Did it already exist and it was unenclosed, and then they enclosed it? What's new? What's not new? I mean, it's worth having that conversation.
I think it makes sense to wait on SECRA and then have the conversation, but that's just my opinion.
I agree with you, Brian.
So do I.
Okay.
Move it along.
Listen,
Yeah,
something else I'd like to add in. I don't know, maybe it might be a little far-fetched to you people. Probably will be to John, but maybe we need to condition some of this stuff that's going on up there in 39, as we are so gracious to Mr. Bennett and his applicants. Maybe we need to condition the variances that we're granting as no further expansion. Just a thought.
Well, one of the things you did on the
Mr.
Mercedes.
Bennett to come back again. You know what I mean?
Okay. You know what, though? It's interesting because at your suggestion, the Mercedes expansion, you said, look, you're saying that this will never be a box store, so we should have a condition in the variance that says it can never be a box store. So I think if I'm arguing that, hey, you shouldn't worry about this because the thing will never be a box store, I don't have a problem with that condition, the same as you did in the Mercedes.
But I'm talking about the dealership itself. All of a sudden, they want to put another 100 cars on the lot. You know, John, you'll be back looking to find space for another 100 cars. And I don't think that's quite necessary. But that's just my opinion.
I guess
But
the only...
I prefaced my commentary saying you guys might not like the idea, but, you know, you'll just keep coming back, talk about the Mercedes, talk about this place, and look for more and more and more and more.
Well, this
And we don't
spot
set
is
price.
this
we don't
spot
set
is a little bit
pricing.
smaller than the Mercedes one too, and it looks like they're pretty close to maxing out the lot coverage. I think they're entitled to like 30, and they're maybe at 28 or something close to that.
what do we got here? That's a good point. Yeah, this is a little bit smaller than Mercedes. How do you have lot coverage?
It's on here. I think it says proposed 28 and a half, maybe. It's tiny.
Site data. Blah, 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 blah.
It's down at the bottom of the survey, I think.
I'm looking
It's down at the bottom of the site plan.
Well, we'll get you for that, but I think, you know, it's probably a limitation like that would probably be fine because we're pretty darn close to the zoning, as you say, I think as you're indicating, Katie, the zoning itself is going to be a limit, but in terms of lot coverage, I'm sorry, Bailey, you're usually faster at finding these things than me. I don't see the lot coverage on there. Do you see it or? Sorry, folks.
That's okay. Also, John, with the park, I mean, I know you're going to amend the application to include the parking. Is a lot of the parking in that area where the transition yard should be? Is that what, or is that car storage?
Let me make sure of that, but I think that's pretty much all storage, which
Okay.
is good. Which is good. But let's get the lot coverage on here. We remember that lot coverage. You can remember that? I would.
We can do that next meeting. I already said what I
Next
said.
time we come back.
We're gonna come back anyway.
I said
Okay.
what I said. Food for thought for my colleagues. That's all. All right. When we coming back?
Well, you have to do seeker, Katie. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, we'll have to do 30 days for the to hear back from everybody. I think we should probably have the amended application to coordinate. So maybe
Okay.
get us a rider, amended rider, and then we can send it from 30 days from that.
So 6 weeks. Figure we get you that next week.
Okay. So maybe come back. I don't know. I mean, 10 to 15 would be, if you could get it to us, before September 15th, we could coordinate. Otherwise, 10-15 or 11-5.
Well, we'll get you the rider. That's no big deal. I'm looking over at Bailey. She's saying, yeah. But yeah, we can get you that before September.
All right.
15th.
So let's shoot for 10-15.
Okay. Is that okay, Bill? Thank you.
In the meantime, I wanted to ask, if there are any other questions of the board?
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I don't know what's on the lot right now, but from Google Maps, it's already being used as proposed. That entire 50-foot area is already being used for storage of cars. So, or at least on this Google Maps photo. Again, I don't know what's there today, but so I don't know if it's one of those things that asking for forgiveness or permission. I don't know what it is.
Well, I don't know that it's all the 50, but certainly it's, I wouldn't argue with you that they're pushing the envelope back there. So I don't, yeah, but that's, of course, that's why we're here. You're supposed to ask first, though. I know. I understand, Michael. I'm not arguing that point with you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Did you ask if there's anybody here for the public?
About to.
Okay, well, I also wanted to ask the board, do you want to consider the parking under any other relief necessary, or do you want that to be advertised?
It's going to be part of SECRA, so,
Re-advertise.
and reviewed, so, I mean, they're going to come back in 6 weeks anyway, so if they want to, it doesn't really matter at that point. It's not holding them up, right?
No, it's not holding them up. It's just whether we're going to re-advertise, renote,
I think it should
they've
be
got any-
I think it should be re-advertised.
No, that's no problem.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Repost? Should we repost and everything, do the whole Megillah?
Sure, why not? Get out of the office in COVID, John, Give you something to do.
What's the protocol? Since I do a lot of the posting myself, should I have to have a mask on when I'm posting if I'm more than 6 feet away from people?
Yeah.
The picture should have you, the mask, and the sign. I haven't
Okay,
seen
I'll
that yet.
take the selfie with the mask. Okay, that's what I'll do.
No, wear a mask, John.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? This is the application of J.A. Properties Associates for 299 County Road 39 in Southampton. Charlie, do you see anybody?
Please raise your hand if you want to be. I see no hands.
Brian,
It's always good.
Yes.
All right. If not, Brian, it's yours.
Okay, so I move that we'll hold this over to we said October 15th, was that correct?
correct.
10:15 for SECRA coordination, and John is going to repost a notice for the parking since we have time between now and that meeting.
Second.
Mrs. Sessa.
Aye.
Hahn. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, Cornelius, can you hear us?
Cornelius. I think he's frozen.
He's frozen or impressed. I don't know.
He hasn't moved. I think
Okay.
he's frozen. It's pretty good.
All right. Well, Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Hopefully we can reconnect with Cornelius.
I vote aye too.
Oh, Mr. Seven votes aye.
All right. So we're done. Item 3 on the agenda is Camp Jerome LLC, 607 Main Street in Quiog, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-378-1-12.3. Applicant requested determination that 3 existing dwellings, a principal residence, and 2 cottages can be maintained on a single property consisting of 252,638 square feet. Proposed lot 4 as a result of the proposed 4-lot subdivision. In
Board
the
has
alter-
jurisdiction. Oops, sorry.
In the alternative, applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-6, general regulations to maintain 3 existing dwellings, a principal residence, and 2 cottages on a single property consisting of 252,638 square feet, proposed lot 4, as a result of a proposed 4-lot subdivision where only 1 use is permitted.
The board has jurisdiction.
John Bennett for the applicant. Should I proceed?
Yes. please.
Okay, thank you. Pretty straightforward application. This is Jerome Stern's, well, the late Jerome Stern's property. It's in his estate now. And it's a large piece. It's over 10 acres. And currently, on these 10 acres, there are 3 homes. They're all pre-existing non-conforming, obviously. You can only have 1 house per lot these days, but this goes pretty far back. And so there's a main house and 2 additional houses on these 10 acres. So we want to subdivide this property, and there's a pending subdivision application to subdivide the property into 4 lots, which is, pretty modest because you have a 0.4 acre parcel in an R40 zone, and even taking away from roads and stuff like that, if you had to do if doing on a yield point of view, you could probably get, certainly 10, maybe even 11 lots in there. But let's just say 9 or 10 lots, and 4 are being proposed. There's lots 1, 2, and 3 that are closer to Main Street in Queog. Lot 1 is 54,000. Lot 2 is 40,000. Lot 3 is 105,000. But Lot 5, or 4, I should say, excuse me, where we want to leave the main house and the other 2 homes, they're essentially 3 single-family residents, is 5.8 acres, which is almost 6 times what zoning is. So this is sort of interesting. I was actually talking to Wayne Bruin about this application because, and again, I give you this being my own witness, but I'm giving you this for your consideration. Many years ago, back in the dark ages of the last century, when I was both the town lawyer and the planning lawyer, my position always was, if you're going to do something like this, you're not increasing the degree of nonconformity just by calving off these 3 lots, using this as a hypothetical. If the lot that you have left over where the multiple residences are going to be handles the density. So in this case, you've got 3 houses in a R40 zone on almost 6 acres. That's almost double the density. And my position always was that that's not an increase in the degree of nonconformity, because, from a density and square footage point of view, you're still leaving an enormous amount of square footage on the one lot. That in itself should not be an increase in the degree of nonconformity. When Wayne was the planning board lawyer, he disagreed. That's after I left, of course. But then I lost track of where the determinations fell out. I don't know what the current determination was. And I had this conversation with Dennis O'Rourke, and he said, just go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and let them sort it out. So that's why we're here. I think that if the lot that you're leaving the homes on has the appropriate amount of density for the number of homes, I think it's hard to argue that you're increasing the degree of nonconformity just because you're calving off some other square footage. Here, it's almost double the density that you would require. So we would ask you by way of determination to state that leaving the 3 houses on lot 4, which is almost 6 times the required zoning square footage, or it is 6 times the required zoning square footage, is not an increase in the degree of nonconformity. I should have added at the very beginning that none of these lots, all these lots conform to zoning. We don't need any dimensional relief for any of the lots. We got a 54,000 square foot lot, a 40,000 square foot lot, a 105,000 square foot lot, and a 252,000 square foot lot. In the alternative, I just would ask you to grant the variance to allow these 3 homes to remain on lot number 4, because obviously we want to leave these on a 5.8 acre parcel where we have 10.4 acres. I don't think you need to reach the variance, but I think you can do it by determination. But again, it's up to you, however we get there. A pretty light application in terms of non-aggressive applications. It's a 10.4 acre parcel, and we want to have 3 lots. And I don't know if you folks have ever been down there, but the hope is that somebody will maintain what is a sort of a neat family compound down there. It's an old, charming old, East End country home with some, they are single family residences, but being used as adjunct to the main house down there. So no impact on the neighborhood. This is a 1 acre zone with a 4 lot yield and 10 acres. Again, whether you do it by determination or variance, the lot 4 is significantly oversized. It will remain a parcel that's essentially 5 times the minimum lot area required by the zoning district. That's pretty much it. I think the application pretty much speaks for itself. And again, we don't need any dimensional relief for any of the lots. The only one that's even close to zoning, lot number 2, is 40,000, just a little bit over it. But again, got 105,000 square feet, 252 and 54,000. So in addition to that smaller lot, that's it.
You could talk a little bit about the 2005 decision of this board that appears to indicate that conditions of no further subdivision unless the non-conforming dwelling units are removed.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask. Yeah, we'd have to ask for relief from that condition. My apologies. I should have brought that to your attention.
Okay.
I was rushing to get prepared for this. You're quite right. Sorry about that.
So you can tell us your thoughts about that.
Well, my thought is, since you have what you're going to end up with a 5.8 acre parcel, the whole reason for that was to make sure that you didn't have 3 units on too small of a parcel. That you didn't have as like a gerrymandered subdivision, so that you tried to put those 3 units on a conforming parcel, or maybe a 60,000 square foot or 80,000 square foot parcel. I think, given the fact that you're ending up with a 6 acre parcel in a 4 acre zone, the ills that you sought to prevent by requiring the removal of the non-conforming dwelling units, in effect, are not present, given the very large size of the lot number. And I apologize. That was my haste in preparing for the application. I should have told you that I need relief from that condition as well. My apologies.
So
I didn't think for one second that I was going to slip that. I can't. It would have been not a good idea to try to slip it, but it's sitting there as a condition. I have got to ask you to remove it.
yeah, and you submitted it with the application, so we
Yeah.
know that. Just so the other board members are aware, the prior application from 2005 was relief for expansion of the 3 dwellings, and relief for a basketball court, setback relief, a basketball court, a tennis court, a trellis, a shed, and that was pretty much it. So it had nothing to do with the subdivision, really what is part of a subdivision application now. However, at the end of the decision, in anticipation of a future subdivision application, because this parcel was so large, this board at that time, in 2005, said, this relief is conditioned upon the following: applicant must remove and relocate the basketball court within 90 days of the date of this decision. No basketball court or sports courts may be located within 100 feet of the Monaco property line. And then no subdivision will be permitted unless the non-conforming dwelling units are removed. And actually, John, since I'm reading it, wanted to ask about the basketball court, or sports court, whether that's still there.
We think it's gone, but if it's not, it's going to have to be, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking. Well, I wasn't talking about the tennis court. There's a basketball court up to the what is that? The westerly portion of the property. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so that was another condition.
Okay. Well, it's got to go. It's got to go.
But the larger question for members of the board is, we have dealt with this now from time to time, where we have a prior determination of our board that anticipates a future application and prohibits certain things. In this instance, that's what in 2005 this board did. So we would have to lift that condition, remove that condition, in order for this application to be, for the relief in this application to be granted.
If I may, if I was coming in for a maxed out subdivision, I think I would have obviously a much more difficult argument asking you to request for relief from that condition. You know, the hope is, if you should drive down there, the hope is that somebody keeps this as a, you know, a almost 6 acre family compound. And that's really what's driving this as much as possible. But again, at the risk of being repetitious, I think, you know, the concern was that somebody was going to come in with a much higher density subdivision, and then, you know, that's sort of like having your cake and eating it too. That's why we made this lot, you know, very large. But in any event, I'll leave it in your good hands. I think it's still a good application, including the request for relief from that condition. I'd hate to have to take those buildings down if somebody's going to try to preserve this as a as a family compound. Go down there and take a look at it. I think you'll agree with me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if the condition of no further subdivision without removing the nonconformities might have come from members of our board at that time. I don't know if that's possible.
I forget. I'm sad to say I did handle the application, but I don't remember. You know, I don't remember.
Well, and the testimony in the decision talks about an 11 lot subdivision as well. It says, you know, Kim was saying how you could have right to 11 lots. So maybe that's what they were thinking about.
This is testimony in the prior decision. Was Kim board counsel, or was she putting it in? Was she working for us?
She was putting it in. She basically is just saying, you know, the lot is huge and you could get 11 lots. So maybe that's what they were thinking with the subdivision. You know, we don't want to see 11 lots, you know, with one 40,000 square foot lot with 3 houses.
Yeah, no, that makes all the sense in the world. That would not make sense. What are you pointing to? Just what does it say?
Yeah, but sometimes our board struggles with prior decisions and I should say prior conditions and decisions and what to do. Because on the one hand, we want to have some sort of consistency with what we do. We want people to believe us when we say we put in a condition. On the other hand, sometimes circumstances can change where there's a rationale for lifting a condition, removing a condition.
I think, yeah, this is right here. Yeah, Kim talks about subdivision into 11 lots. Again, I think that, I'll just say it again, I think the idea with that was somebody's going to come in and try to max out the number of lots. You can't let them leave 3 houses on a lot that's, you know, smaller than what's proposed here, which would be 6 acres. I think it's a good application. I think it's a good request for a removal of the condition. You know, obviously I'll leave it with you. Take a ride down there. I think you'll see what I'm talking about. I hate to take those, you know, the potential for a family compound away, particularly on a lot that's going to be almost 6 times the required zoning.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll leave it with you guys.
Yeah, and then the other part of the application is there's an option of a determination versus variance relief for the 3 structures. And I don't know whether you have a preference one way or another as to which way we go.
Well, you know, I guess from an ego point of view, I'd like the board to reaffirm what Mike prior determination. I'm just sort of half kidding. But my position when I was the planning board lawyer and the town lawyer is when you're going to calve off lots, if the simple one is I have 2 lots, I have a house, I have 2 houses on a large lot. If I'm going to calve off lots, I should leave at least the appropriate amount of density on the lot where I want more than 1 house. So, you know, if I've got a 10-acre parcel in a zone like this, and I've got 2 houses on it, I better leave, you know, in a 1-acre zone, I better leave at least 80,000 square feet on the lot where I want to keep those 2 houses. I never saw that as an increase in the degree of nonconformity, as long as my density was remaining the same. So I think it's a decent determination for the board to make. It's not like I'm saying leave 3 houses in an R40 zone on one 40,000 square foot lot. I think that would be an increase in the degree of nonconformity. But I think it's hard to argue where I'm going to create a lot that has almost 6 times the density requirement, and I'm having 3 lots there, 3 houses there, excuse me, that's an increase in the degree of nonconformity. I mean, if it was a 100-acre lot and I had 2 houses on it, because I'll using a hypothetical of it, I'll leave those houses on a 10-acre lot. Is that what really the drafters meant by an increase in the degree of nonconformity? If you look at the code, increases in degree of nonconformity usually deal with structure size and stuff like that. So I don't really think that the code itself calls this an increase in the degree of nonconformity. I mean, if it's easier for you to do it as a variance, obviously I would accept that.
I don't like the idea of granting the variance. We've never done anything like that. I think it's more, is the board comfortable with this determination, which I don't think is problematic except for the prior variance. So I think you have to figure out, can I distinguish this from the prior variance? And if so, it goes forward as a determination. I don't really want the board to encourage the board to give a variance from the allowable number of dwellings. I think we recognize those pre-existing.
Yeah, which is why I always took the position that I did. And then again, I would just say in terms of that condition, we're not in here with anywhere near the max number of lots. I think you can safely and without too much concern relieve that condition, which is not what I would say about every condition, but I think in this instance you can.
John, I have one more question for you.
Yep.
Do you think that your client would agree to a condition in this decision if we grant the relief of no further subdivision beyond 4 lots?
That's a question I would have to. I guess what I would prefer to say is to leave that condition of no further subdivision without removing all of those houses on the resulting lot 4.
Okay. So that you believe your client would agree to?
I think it would be hard for them not to agree to that if you were going to be so kind as to lift the prior restriction. So what I would offer that, and I would say that the condition should remain on the resulting lot number 4.
Yeah, but they agreed to no further subdivision and they agreed to remove the court, and here we are. So
well, they didn't agree to no further. They didn't agree to no further subdivision. They said no further subdivision unless you remove those
Right.
other 2 homes. And I think what was contemplated was to make sure that somebody couldn't max out the subdivision. A maxed out subdivision and leave those 3 houses.
I do think the survey has to be revised to take that court off.
The asphalt, was the asphalt court that they're talking about? I don't think it's the tennis court. I think that's certificate.
Yeah, I think it's the best asphalt basketball court.
Yeah. Unless we're far enough away from the property line. What did it say? Was it conditioned? Was it adjusted? You got to take care of it, or you have to
remove and relocate.
Or maybe it was. Let's make sure that if this thing has been relocated, that it's relocated as per the required decision. I think if I remember that some of the neighbors were concerned that because some of Jerome Stern's grandchildren were playing basketball. And they were concerned about that. Let's make sure that if it's not the way, if it hasn't been relocated where it should be, that it's going to go, or we'll just verify that it was properly relocated.
Perfect, because it does have like a 100-foot setback is what it's supposed to have.
Yeah. I think we're okay with that, but let's not have any guesswork. Let's make sure. I think it was up against the property line, and some of the neighbors were not that happy. Just one neighbor in particular. So, but we'll get the right answer and the right information and on that.
John, I had one other thing I wanted to mention, which is we did have some comments from the building department.
Okay.
This was from Dennis O'Rourke, Chief Building Inspector. The frame barn with attached shed and the metal wall on proposed lot 3 shall be removed or relocated to conforming locations as they encroach onto proposed lot 1 as a result of the proposed subdivision line.
We'll show that on the survey. That obviously it's got to go. It sits on top of a proposed lot line. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that would need to be in the decision as well.
And so what we'll do is let's put that on the survey so that there's no issues. We'll say frame barn to be removed.
Removed or moved to a conforming location.
Oh, thank you.
Either or.
Okay. But again, is that it?
That was it that I've got. I'm not sure whether any other comments from the board.
Yeah, just take a ride down there. It's almost like an old world sort of place.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. And I was happy that, that we're in for just this number of lots. But anyway, all right, I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions from members of the board?
I just want to say I did bring up the survey from the prior variance, and the basketball court was to the north, right by that Monaco property line. So it was moved.
Okay,
Good,
well, that's good to know.
Thank
Because I
you.
was about to be embarrassed.
Yep, it was moved.
Yeah.
You embarrassed?
Oh, you never know, Michael.
Take it easy, John.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? This is the applicant, Camp Jerome LLC,
I have two.
for property located at 607 Main Street in Quayock.
I think I have two.
Okay?
I'm Robert Hatch. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Robert, but we can't see you, so I don't know if you can click
Let
on
me
it.
see if I can change that.
Okay. Okay, we can
Okay.
see
You should be able to see me.
Okay.
May I have permission to address the board?
You do. I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
I'm not an attorney.
Okay, so if you can state your name and address.
My name is Robert Hatch, and I reside at 12 Alden Lane in Quayock.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can tell us your comments.
I have the following comments. These relate primarily to lots 1 and 2 reflected on the subdivision. These are both sort of old growth forest lots. They're both heavily wooded. They provide a lot of screening to the property that you're discussing this evening. And I would like to ask the board to consider, the other thing I want to mention is that they also contribute materially to the character of the Quayock hamlet, because they are forested. They're a nesting ground for horned owls. There's a whole bunch of, I think, benefits that the whole community enjoys by having these lots in the condition that they've been for hundreds of years. And I'd like to ask the board to consider if they would limit the clearing allowed on these lots in conjunction with this variance, because they do provide a lot of screening to the lot that's under discussion. And I think they both give privacy to the people on the large lot, but they also provide the people that live on Alden Lane with additional privacy. I don't see anything on this subdivision that wouldn't permit someone to come and clear cut these 2 lots, and I think that would be a real tragedy for the hamlet.
But I've got to ask you, are you an adjacent property owner?
I'm across the street. I live on the opposite side on Alden Lane.
Okay.
So just to summarize, I'd like the board to consider possibly restricting the clearing of lots 1 and 2 in conjunction with this variance request. Perhaps showing a building envelope or something like that.
Can I respond?
Sure.
There's no variance relief requested for lots number 1 or 2. that sort of restriction, to the extent it's at all applicable, and I would say that it's not because we're not in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, is a comment that should be made to the planning board. I'm not here for relief on lots number 1 or 2. I'm not here for dimensional relief for anything. I'm just here for an interpretation on lot number 4, which is about as far away from Mr. Hatch's property as possible on this lot. So there will be a hearing before the planning board on these 2 lots and the other 2 lots, and if Mr. Hatch has concerns, he should make those concerns known to the planning board, because I'm not here for any relief on lots number 1 and 2, and there would be no nexus between that request for a condition and any sorts of the determination or relief that I'm asking for. But he's going to have another bite at the apple in front of the planning board. And if the planning board, obviously he's going to make that request, if the planning board, should consider that. But again, there's no nexus between what's happening on lots number 1 and 2 and what we're here for. And I may also add, I just can't, having been sort of like there's no old growth forest on Long Island. Old growth is a term of art. But again, those are matters that should be addressed before the planning board. We have no request for relief for lot number 1 or 2.
Robert, just so you understand, we sometimes grant conditions or limitations such as screening and other things when people request variance relief when you're an adjacent property. What John is indicating is that other than the fact that it's an application for a subdivision, he's not asking any secret. There is no, right now, other than that, what he said is accurate. That is, there's no variance relief being requested for a future build out of lot 1 and 2. So it's very hard for us to, put a limitation on what will be 2 conforming lots unless they come back for variance relief at a future date. And Robert, we can't hear you. You need to click on your.
Okay, I would just ask that the board, as they're reviewing this application, look at this subdivision holistically, as Mr. Bennett has suggested. I think it's really a remarkable property that should be, as these applications come up before the board, be considered in its entirety. That's really all I'm asking for.
Okay. No, and I appreciate your comments. I just want to be straightforward with you.
No, I understand.
And I'm just one member of the board.
Again, you'll have your opportunity to make those sort of comments to the planning board on the subdivision application, but that's not what we're here for.
Okay, that's all I have to say this evening. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, I think we have a second person. Hi, Mr. Bate, I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
I'm not an attorney, and this is Chris Ryder.
Okay.
Melissa Bateman is my wife.
Oh, okay.
She,
Okay, sorry then. Okay, Chris. So if you can state your address and your name again.
my name is Chris Ryder at 25 Alden Lane, and I'm an adjacent property owner.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Adam, can you just have him spell his last name for me?
Ryder, R-Y-D-E-R.
Okay, thank you.
And Chris, where do you live versus the property that's the subject of the application? Where's your property?
I bought the Monaco property.
And where's that located?
25 Alden Lane. It's the adjacent property. It's the one that had the issue regarding the basketball court.
I see it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. I see where you are. Okay.
And
So
I was confused a little bit about some of Mr. Bennett's presentation because he sort of dismissed some of the things that were part of the original problem, which was that the prior owner built things within 100 feet of the property line. And I didn't see anything regarding whether the basketball court would be moved.
It has been.
Actually, it's still there. I just was wondering, there were different parts of the variance requests that were being made, which is this idea that we're going to have 6 acres with 3 units, therefore we don't change the density of the neighborhood. And I didn't see anything in the documentation about the basketball court, which is used mostly as a parking space, but becomes a basketball court in the evenings.
Chris, I think that basketball court was a condition in the 2005 variance that of this board, where it was to be removed or moved to a conforming location, and Mr. Bennett has agreed to do just that.
Well, it's actually shown on the survey in excess of 100 feet from all property lines, so it was moved.
Okay.
So if it's at a conforming location, yeah, that's really that's what we've asked them to do.
You know, I'm just trying to understand what it is that they're asking a variance for, and the variance is for, in the documentation, was for the 3 units. And
Yeah.
you're saying that because the basketball court is now conforming, it's not part of the variance request?
It's not part of the variance request, but it is part of the prior variance.
Okay. So when you come down to inspect the property, you're going to be able to see whether or not it actually has been moved?
Correct. Or removed.
It's on the survey. It's on the survey that's part of the application, and it's more than 100 feet. The basketball court used to be right on the property line, which I can understand why the speaker was concerned about that, or his predecessor in interest, but it's now been moved more than 100 feet away from his property line.
Well, I think he's saying is that paved area that used to be the basketball court is now for parking, and people are still playing basketball on it, maybe? Is that your testimony?
I don't know why they would play basketball on it, because the asphalt court that's shown on the basketball, on the survey, has 2 basketball posts on it.
Great. I've not been on the property. I don't know. I'm just asking the question because it's being raised in the discussion that there was a basketball court that required to have a variance, and I don't know what happened. I just know they're playing basketball.
There was a basketball, back when the ZBA first heard the application, there was a basketball court, and the condition of that prior variance was that it be moved away from your property down to 100 feet from the property line, which is where the survey shows it now, and which is where the aerial shows it now. So the area that used to be a basketball court, I'm guessing, by your property is now for parking.
Got it.
Yes, the basketball court used to be very close to the speaker's, either his predecessor in interest or his property line. I remember having the discussion with Mr. Stern, who wanted to know why anyone would object to his grandchildren playing basketball. And I said, I get it. You're going to have to move it. And we did.
So Chris, I hope that answers your question. Basically, the basketball court has to be conforming.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's it. So we're not granting relief for it, and there's a prior condition that says that it has to be conforming.
Right. And just to clarify, the prior condition established that you couldn't change the density of the total acreage without removing the other 2 units?
Yeah, the prior decision said no further subdivision without removing the prior 2 units. So part of this application is that condition should be removed from
just a little bit. I mean, I offered to leave it on. I think it's fair that it be left on the 5.8 acre lot. Yeah.
Correct. So we're removed as to we're allowing, if we decide to grant relief, we're allowing what will be a 4-lot subdivision, and then the limitation in terms of if there is any application for further subdivision, that at that point the condition would remain in place for removal of the non-conforming structures. That's the discussion that was had tonight.
Okay, so every time that there is a cleaving off of acreage, you would revisit the idea of those 3 original units.
Arguably, yes.
Okay, and just to question. I'm not a land use lawyer, so I don't understand this stuff sometimes, but they put in an additional driveway when they decided to create lot 1 with the 40,000 square feet, and it's adjacent to our property line. So now we have, on our 25 Alden Lane property line, we now have a access on one side of our property line, as well as a driveway access on the other side of the property line. So there's now 2 driveways in. Do I understand that correctly?
I don't know what the speaker's talking about.
If you look at the document that was submitted that I received a copy of,
Mhm.
you don't see 2 driveways?
I see a driveway coming down from Alden Lane in a flag portion of the lot, and then I see a driveway coming in from Main Street. They're both purely legal driveways.
Okay, so just to clarify, you don't see 2 separate driveways from Alden Lane entering that property?
I see a flagpole portion. I see 2 flagpole portions. I only see one of them improved with a dirt driveway. But even again, even if there was a separate driveway, that's perfectly legal. And as everyone knows, you can have an access driveway. There's no setback for an access driveway. The survey only shows a dirt driveway on the flagpole portion of the lot off of Alden Lane and a driveway off of Main Street. But even if there were a driveway on that second flag, that's 30 feet. You see that 30 feet up there? Even if there was some driveway there, which is shown now as a wooded area, it would be legal as well. I'm not aware of any driveway other than that dirt driveway. Is the speaker saying that both of those flagpole lots are improved with driveways?
No, I'm just trying to understand, if you have 2 separate driveways, what does that mean for development?
Well, you have two flagpole portions off of Alden Lane. It certainly
Yes.
wouldn't be unusual to have 2 driveways on a 5.8 acre lot. But currently, I think the only thing that you're seeing is a dirt driveway, and that I guess let me make sure my north-south arrow is right here. I guess that would be the easterly driveway, or the driveway to the right. The one. But there's nothing to prevent. I'm not going to kid anybody. There would be nothing to prevent cutting another driveway onto Alden Lane. The separation between the 2 driveways is probably about 200 feet.
And John, the location of driveways, would that be part of a planning board application that you would be submitting?
No, I think if lot 4 is going to be the way it is, someone could always cut a second driveway in there. It's got an absolute right to access on the street front. I don't know what's being. I think maybe the speaker is confusing what's shown as a flagpole strip to, I guess, the west with an actual driveway. The only driveway that I see on the survey is the dirt driveway to the right.
I understand the concern here. It seems like we're getting into an area where this is more of a planning issue with driveways. The application before us is not for 2 driveways. So, we're not being asked to consider 2 driveways. I understand it's a concern for the neighbors, but I think that's more apt at the planning level. We're very singular in what we can decide here. And I think both neighbors, that spoke tonight have valid concerns. But I think those concerns would be better addressed by the planning board, who can limit clearing and who can determine curb cuts. The zoning board here just doesn't have the authority to do what you guys are asking for. We're limited to what the advertisement was for, to either amend the previous decision and or allow these 3 dwelling units to remain on this approximate 6 acre lot. Those are the only 2 things that we're allowed to do at this point. And we're not taking action at this point. It seems, based on comments back that I'm hearing this evening. So I just want to remain focused on what we're looking and here to be asked at.
Completely understood. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate both your comments.
Looking at this survey, I also noticed that there is a second basketball post with concrete, kind of as you come in that dirt driveway there on the flag behind the 1.5-story cottage and adjacent to the 1-story frame building.
Where is that, Mike? I'm sorry.
If you look, kind of.
And I just think we gotta. I agree. I think that's important, Mike. I think maybe we should carry this over, and if anyone didn't make a site visit, and John can update the survey so we can have an accurate.
Well, I don't know that it's necessary to update. But I don't know that we're updating the survey, Brian. The asphalt court has been moved.
Yeah, but there's a secondary concrete basketball court behind.
Oh, that's right. I see that. Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I don't know if that's a problem or not, but it's there.
Well, the driveway, the basketball court area that was. I'll take a look at the prior survey. The basketball court area that was of concern was moved. I don't know if there's any other limitations on basketball posts. I'm not aware of any.
Okay. All right.
I'm sort of scratching my head. This is an 11-acre potential, 11-lot potential subdivision, and we're talking about 4 lots, one of which is 6 times zoning. It's just I'm not going to say be careful what you wish for, because I don't think anyone would really want to do that and max out the number of subdivisions. But from lots, but remember, from a yield point of view, this is pretty gentle.
But on the other hand, John, I mean, the neighbors are just being pragmatic as to how it's going to impact them, and they have questions. So
Well, sure, and there's a prior ZBA decision that says no further subdivision, so it's worth having the
It
conversation.
says no further subdivision without removing those.
Correct.
And as I said, I would have no problem with leaving that on lot number 4.
Got it.
But again, this is a 1-acre zone. Look what we're trying to do here. I know no one likes change, I know, but the town board in their wisdom has zoned this area for 1-acre lots.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions, members of the board? I don't think there's anyone else in the public who's waiting to be heard. So if not, Keith, it's yours.
Okay, are we waiting to hear from anybody?
Nope.
No. All right, so we'll close the public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions for that, October date? Adam?
Yes. So the October date.
October 5th.
October 5th. And with a determination at our second meeting in October, which is?
October 15th.
15?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
that's my motion.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Sessa.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
We have to look at it.
Aye.
Mr.
Thank
Hahn. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you all. Greatly appreciate your comments tonight.
If I just can grab you for 30 seconds.
You never grab anybody for 30 seconds, John. It's 30 minutes usually.
Right, 45 seconds. Number 8, I'm not gonna make any presentation. I spoke to Katie. It's on for, you've got some secret work to do on it. So whatever adjournment you want to adjourn it for is fine with me. That's not Dune Road, 94 Dune Road. I just didn't want
because it's on the agenda, if there is any speakers, John, we will take testimony though.
Yeah, I just didn't want to seem like there's any lack of interest because I wasn't going to be on the Zoom anymore.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, John.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for putting up with me as always.
Item 4 on the agenda is Michael Frank, 37 Potato Barn Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-133-2-21.23. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory rear yard setback of 10 feet where 20 feet is required, and Town Code 330-77D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts for a rear yard coverage of 25.15%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted, all for the location of a proposed tennis court and a non-conforming lot. In addition, applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Note 12, to allow the proposed tennis court to be located along the boundary line of a drainage easement and easement for access to an agricultural reserve area where a minimum of 5 feet is required and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Good evening. For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York. My client, Michael Frank, who's the owner and the applicant, is on with us tonight. I don't think he'll be giving any testimony, but he is here if you have questions. The first thing, housekeeping issue, the last part of the request for relief, which is the 5 feet off the access easement, I don't think is no longer necessary. I think Katie can opine on it, but we did provide a declaration of covenants and restrictions that showed that the access easement was removed from this lot, moved to another area of the ag reserve, which is to our west. So I don't think that relief is necessary.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so my client purchased this property in February. Actually, Chuck, do you mind? Can you set me up so that I could share a survey? I purchased it in February with the understanding that the current tennis court was built in a non-conforming location and not consistent with the building permit application that had been made. I don't know if Chuck can let me share. Am I set up? Can you see it?
Nope.
Not yet. There we go.
Yep.
So what I've done here, you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, so what I've done is I've highlighted the two courts. The pink is the existing court, which is 60 by 120, and the blue is the proposed court. Obviously, the existing court was built into that easement. It's 10.4 feet off that north property line and 11.1 feet off the west property line. So we moved it to a conforming location. In doing that, we need rear yard relief, which is right here, which is the 10, and then we need required rear yard lot coverage to 25.15%. I'd note that the existing court is at 26.24%. And the difference is that we're building a reduced size court at 55 by 115, whereas 60 by 120 exists today. I guess, illegally placed court, I'll call it, has not had a complaint in the 32 years that it's been there. In fact, the building department did issue a CO for it. So it has existed with a CO in that location. We have received emails from the lot here, lot 18, which is the lot that's, I would say most impacted by it, but it's less impacted by our application and moving the court than it is by the existing court. And then we have a letter from the executor of the estate that owns the agricultural reserve. We submitted those via email to the zoning board office. So we do have the approval of the two lots that would be implicated in this in any way. Obviously, a tennis court is not going to impact an agricultural reserve.
I didn't get to speak before. Just for the record, Brian just says I'm recused on this application.
Okay. So with respect to the character of the neighborhood, I believe that, bringing it into a conforming location outside the easement improves the character of the neighborhood. It certainly improves any impact to lot 18. I think it's not substantial in that we are improving the current situation, and the impacts are really minor, has been indicated by the 32-year history of it. The neighbor has a tennis court which is located in this area, so it is a natural place for us to locate the tennis court that we're doing. We can't achieve our end of moving it without the relief, bringing it back within the 10 feet. There'll be no environmental impacts with respect to the application. And with respect to self-created hardship, I think, along with this board, that we'll be righting a wrong that occurred some 32 years ago. But again, it's been there for 32 years without complaint, and we believe that we're improving the situation. I can try and answer any questions that you have. Again, Mr. Frank is here, but we'd respectfully request that you grant the variance.
So my question, David, is are we going to do a 55 by 110 instead of 55 by 115 tennis court?
Well, we'd like to have the 115. I think it does improve the situation when there's a 60 by 120. But if I can't count to 4, then certainly we would reduce it to the 110.
Okay, well, my guess is you can't count to 4, but I don't want to speak for my colleagues. Generally, we try to be consistent with when variance relief is required for tennis courts. It's the size 55 by 110 is generally what we've approved.
I just note that this is distinguishable in the fact that there is a 60 by 120 existing already.
Can I also just take note that, how are you? Michael Frank, I'm the owner.
Swear you in. You can just state your address.
My address is 94 Sayers Path, Wayne-Scott, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You tell us your comments.
Just a comment on the 115. Obviously, we prefer 115 over the 110. And that the rear yard coverage wouldn't be affected if it went from 115 to 110. It's really just the 55 that falls into that rear yard coverage.
Okay, I appreciate that. We generally, for any tennis court that requires variance relief, we generally have them be 55 by 110. So I'm only one member of this board, but I bring it to your attention, and we'll the board will have to figure out whether we, and momentarily, I think we'll have a conversation about it, because if it's going to be, if the size of the tennis court's going to be changed, we're going to need a revised survey. So I'm not sure whether this might be a good time to ask my colleagues where they are on the size of the tennis court.
I like consistency. I'm with you.
I agree.
55 by 110 it is.
Okay, that's 4. Helen?
Me too.
Okay. Keith?
Okay, so we'll amend the survey, we'll submit it, and look forward to an approval of the application.
Okay. Before that, any other questions of members of this board or Katie?
Nope.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who is waiting to be heard on Zoom this evening in connection with the application of Frank for 37 Potato Barn Road, Watermill?
I see no hands.
Okay, if not, Jason, it's yours.
I will close the public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions for a revised survey to reflect the change in size of the tennis court, and can have a decision.
Written subs due by 10/5, decision on 10/15.
And a decision on 10/15. Thank you, Katie.
Is it
Yep.
10:15 or 10:19?
10,
10:15. I think it's
Janice,
10:15.
when's the second meeting in October?
It's 10:15.
10:15.
Okay.
It's 10 days from the, it's not on a Thursday?
we have a meeting on the 1st. Then we have a
Oh, it's
meeting on the
first. Oh, so I was calculating it from the 5th.
No, the 5th is the 30 days written comments.
30, okay.
This calculation, David.
It was. Math isn't my thing, Keith, you know that.
All right, so Jason, you made a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Tuthill.
Aye.
Burgess.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Daly.
Aye.
Chairman Friday, Mr. DeCessa recused himself, so he abstains. Thank you all for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 5 on the agenda, 81 Harbor Drive, LLC. 81 Harbor Drive in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-9-3-40. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed two-story dwelling. 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for a total side yard setback of 20.8 feet, where 25 feet is required. And 330-84D pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 4,848 cubic feet and any other relief necessary.
It has jurisdiction.
Okay, Bruce, just need to swear you in. And state your name and address.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting with offices in Main Street Bridge, Hampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Can you tell us about the application?
Yeah, just a bit of housekeeping. Although it is listed for total side yard setback relief, we believe that that is not necessary due to application of 330-83K, which reads, in all residence districts where the approving authority under Chapter 325 wetlands of the town code has authorized a wetland permit for a principal building requiring relief from the minimum required yards under 330-11 of this chapter. The required yard of such proposed principal dwelling may be reduced up to 50%, provided that any such reduced front or rear yard should not be less than 30 feet, and any such reduced side yard should not be less than 10 feet. Perhaps the reason for this is that although we have an approval for a wetland permit, it simply hasn't issued yet due to the filing of a covenant, and maybe that's why that's in there. But once that wetland permit is obtained, physically obtained, and as I said, we have approval for it already, I believe that variance goes away. In any event, the applicant is requesting a zoning variance pursuant to 330-84D for the construction of a new two-story single-family dwelling. The requested pyramid relief, pyramid nonconformity, would be a total of 4,848 cubic feet, consisting of 1,921 cubic feet on the northwestern side and 2,927 cubic feet on the southeastern side of the house. This is an existing house that's improved with a one-story single-family dwelling with deck, which was constructed in 1971. The dwelling benefits from a CO granted on May 17, 1972 for a one-story dwelling with a carport. And this is a waterfront lot. The parcel contains 21,168 square feet, of which 5,819 square feet are designated tidal wetlands. and it's located in an R10 zoning district. The existing dwelling is set back from the road at 45 feet. The proposed dwelling is set back from the road at 30 feet, which is permissible pursuant to 330-83K. The lot has 157 feet of frontage on Sag Harbor Cove, but it narrows to 75 feet on Harbor Drive. And the 75-foot rear lot line is along an arc. And so the actual linear distance from the lot corners at Harbor Road is 58 feet. The lot is a pie-shaped lot, causing practical hardships to arise from any proposed two-story dwelling, even when side yard setbacks are complied with. In this application, the height of the proposed dwelling is 25 feet, where 32 feet is permitted. Also, the board should take note that the building coverage proposed is at 9.7%, where 20% is permitted. This parcel is part of a waterfront community known as Bay Point. And Bay Point contains 238 parcels, most of which are 10,000 square feet or less in area. Because all of Bay Point is zone R10, having individual side yard setbacks of 10 feet with a total side yard of 25 feet, the majority of the developed lots in this, and particularly two-story houses meeting side yard setbacks, would display nonconformance with respect to the pyramid law. That pyramid law came into effect in 1992, as the board is aware, with subsequent amendments thereafter. So many of these lots are going to be in variance with the existing pyramid law because they pre-exist. Then also, there are numerous lots that have received relief from this board for pyramid because of the R10 zoning, the limited lot widths, and the limited lot areas in this particular community. We submitted a zoning analysis that identifies the parcels in Bayfront that benefit from zoning relief and from the pyramid law. And among the waterfront lots and the other lots, the range in relief runs from 5,298 square feet to 339 square feet. In this application, again, we're proposing 4,848 square feet, which places us within the range of relief granted for this area. The proposed dwelling we submit complies with all other dimensional setbacks in the R10 zone in which it lies. Applications have been filed with the Conservation Board, and we are in receipt of a resolution of approval. The resolution of approval will be converted to a permit upon the filing of a covenant for a substantial non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer adjacent to the wetlands. You should also know that subject property already benefits from a tidal wetland permit granted by New York State DEC. Also, the property falls within the town's high priority area pursuant to its CPF Water Quality Improvement Plan, and the applicant has proposed to install an IA alternative septic system that complies with the town regulations set forth in Chapter 123-52 of the Town Code. The proposed septic system also complies with the requirement of Suffolk County Department of Health Services. Public water is supplied to the lot. Likewise, the proposed project would comply with the town's stormwater management regulations. We submit that we satisfy the various criterion for the granting of a variance. And we submit that the granting of a variance will not cause an undesirable change to the neighborhood, as the proposed dwelling is consistent with numerous similar dwellings in the neighborhood. In addition, there are other pyramid and area setback relief and pre-existing non-conforming pyramid encroachments exist throughout the neighborhood, as I previously explained. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be feasibly achieved without a variance because the lot width is limited. And although the dwelling conforms with all setback requirements in this R10 zoning district, no two-story house at the prescribed setbacks could be built without a variance relief. Understand that when we enter the process with the Conservation Board and we're seeking to demolish a house, what the Conservation Board and the DEC, for that matter, will do, will seek to relocate us as far away from the water as possible, as far from that wetland boundary as possible. And the 330-83K will allow us to be as close as 30 feet from the road. But when you relocate towards the road, the lot narrows significantly because it's essentially pie-shaped. And so we say that the variance is not substantial in relationship to the area of the lot, the width of the lot, and the size of the existing dwelling, and really the geometry of the lot. Again, we note the height of the proposed dwelling is at 25 feet, where 32 feet is permitted. We submit that the granting the variance will not have adverse impacts on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood because the dwelling complies with all the dimensional setbacks in zoning and complies with all the environmental regulations applied to this waterfront lot. And so it's our position that the benefit to the applicant, if the requested determination is granted, would outweigh any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. Our benefit is the construction of a new dwelling, and we submit that there is no detriment to neighborhood or the community. With that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Well, I just want to comment that this particular lot has limitations on it because of the existence of wetlands. And so I appreciate the fact, Bruce, that you and your client have been dealing with the limitations on the property. And really the pyramid relief is directly caused by the fact that this property has wetlands in the vicinity that require the proposed residents to be pushed away from the wetlands. And as to the amount of pyramid relief, well, it's less than 5,000. It is more relief than many of the applications in the vicinity in terms of pyramid. But on the other hand, I don't know whether any of those other properties have wetlands restrictions on them of any significance. So that may be a factor. Bruce, I want to ask, the size of the proposed residence, is it similar in size to residences in the vicinity?
Well, we did a study of our house, and our first floor, including the garage, was 1,788 square feet. The second floor was 1,911 square feet, which brings us to a total floor area of 3,699 square feet. The adjacent lot to the south or southeast has a total living area of 3,344 square feet and a garage of 299 square feet. And so its total is 3,643. In other words, the parcel, our house is within 50 square feet of the house directly to the east. I believe the house to the west is somewhat smaller, but not greatly smaller.
I'd like to see if have we heard from any of the neighbors, or have you heard from any of the neighbors?
We have a letter of support from the neighbor to the west, and that's in your file jacket.
Okay. Any other questions and members of the board? Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom this evening in connection with the application of 81 Harbor Drive LLC? This is for property located at 81 Harbor Drive in Noyak. Charlie, do we have anybody waiting?
I see no hands.
We have somebody in the chat box that's looking to get on, Mr. Gibbons.
Okay. Thank you.
So where is he?
I'm working on it. Hold on.
Give it a second.
Here we go. Can everybody hear me and see me?
Yes, we can, Ms. Gibbons. So unless you're an attorney, I just have to swear you in.
No, I am an attorney. I represent the neighbor to the south, the owner of 86 Harbor Drive, David Beard. So if I may, I understand the limitations on the property with the wetlands and the shape, and my client isn't opposed to the application. Our concern is the amount of relief, the 4,848 cubic feet. I know Mr. Anderson had mentioned that there are other properties in the neighborhood that have gotten similar relief, and to be honest, my client did as well, but the relief that he was granted was only 616 cubic feet, and what the applicant is looking for is almost 8 times that. I would like an opportunity to review the applicant zoning analysis that they mentioned and look at the plans. My client just retained me, but our biggest concern, as we are the property immediately to the southeast where there's a 3,000, almost 3,000 cubic feet relief being sought, that's going to impact my client the greatest. So while we understand, because we own a very similar parcel, that there are limitations with the wetlands, my client has a 2-story house, but as Mr. Anderson pointed out, the dimensions are almost the same, but this very, very large second story that they're proposing is going to significantly impact my client. I would like an opportunity to look at the plans and the zoning analysis.
And you'll definitely.
Let me just ask this. You have roughly the same size house. Is that the house that Mr. Anderson was referencing?
Yes.
And your pyramid relief was 600 feet?
616 cubic feet, yes.
Is the lot size different?
No, the lot size is about the same. Actually, the frontage onto Harbor for my client is actually smaller than the applicant's.
Okay. And how about the wetlands? Is this the same type of restriction on?
Yes, yes.
If I may, I think I can address that. So if you were to look at, and Matt, we can put the survey up. You were to look at the Beard survey. Well, let me just start as a first neighborly thing. Board should take notice that when Mr. Beard got his variance, our clients supported him in that variance application. And the board should take note in that particular variance application that the variance was granted in part because it wouldn't obstruct anyone's views. Now, I've put up a copy of the Beard survey. And the first thing that the board...
I don't see anything, Bruce.
Yeah, sorry. Hang on.
You have to do screen sharing.
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
Okay, there we go.
Can you see it? So the first thing I want you to take notice of is Mr. Beard's house is 49.1 feet from Harbor Drive. We are 30 feet from Harbor Drive. And the reason is when Beard came in to propose a second-story addition, he was not demolishing the house. Our house was set back in a similar distance of 50 feet from the road, but because we were demolishing it, the house had to be relocated. It wouldn't allow us to build it at 49 feet from the road. We were pushed to 30 feet from the road. And when you get pushed to 30 feet from the road and the lot narrows, of course, the pyramid relief grows substantially. And so if you had two similar lots, these houses are within 50 square feet of each other. And I suspect if you were to take the Beard house and relocate it 30 feet from the road, like we are being forced to relocate, that the variance relief requested by Beard would have been substantially greater because they're both 2-story houses. I don't think that there is an impact of a view from as a result of our application. And the reason for that is, if you look at the survey, you'll see that the outdoor space of Beard is off towards the water and to the south. So he's looking to the southwest. If we can go to an aerial, we'll show you exactly what that view is. And you'll see the Beard property is there. And you'll see that these houses and the outdoor space is oriented towards North Haven and the Sag Harbor Bridge, because that's the longest stretch of water and the preferred view. So what we're doing here would in no way obstruct that view, which was a consideration apparently in the granting of the Beard zoning application. Also, this house wouldn't even as much cast a shadow on the Beard property because he is to the south of us, and the sun cuts across the southern sky because we're in the northern hemisphere, and it would not upset the house in terms of light and air and the rest of it, which is a consideration in these types of variances. If a view of the house from the side is of concern, it is certainly within our ability, and it is our wish to substantially screen that off, because really what we face looking south is a storage yard of Beard, and that's where he keeps his bicycles and things like that. He also keeps a boat in the required side yard and up against the property line, which is actually in violation of 330-77. Can we go to that shot, please? And so, okay. So that's the yard. That's what we look at right there. There's the boat. You can see that.
We're not
complaining about it, but we are going to screen it out. So if they're worried about looking at it from this side, I guess there's one window that faces us on the second floor. We will certainly plant substantial evergreen plantings in that. But really our problem, and the difference between the two is because if we're demolishing our house and we're forced to relocate it 30 feet from the road, then the pyramid is going to substantially increase because it's a pie-shaped lot that narrows as you get to the road. And there's a big world of difference between being 30 feet off the road and being 50 feet off the road on two parcels that have this similar lot geometry to them. So I just want the board to take note of that.
Bruce, what's the ceiling heights of the proposed house?
Well, the overall height is 25 feet. So these are 10 and 10, essentially is what they are.
Oh,
Do you have those plans?
We can make those lower. Bruce?
To me, it sounds like we have a neighbor who like not necessarily objecting that Mr. Gibbons said, but just some time to review. So that may be in the applicant's best interest to let Mr. Gibbons review them, because you may have support or you may have some concern, but it could benefit you, but that's up to you.
I'm not opposed to that.
And then, maybe, Bruce and Tom, you guys can talk once you see the plans, and maybe something can be worked out, and you guys can come back to us.
I'm not opposed to that.
I have no opposition whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, so then the only other question is when we'd like to come back. We do have room on our agenda at our next meeting.
What
Which is
No caller.
17th of September.
Right.
Sure, that's plenty of time.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
I'd make a motion to keep this open for all purposes till September 17th.
Second.
I just want to make sure before we do that, if there's anyone else waiting to be heard.
Oh, sorry.
This is the application of 1 Harbor Drive LLC. No one else. Okay. Okay. Very good. We have a
Very
motion.
good. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Aye.
Devon.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill. Mr. Tuthill. Well,
He's
yes,
disappeared.
here. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's 8:04. Wanted to take a short break. We've been going for 2 hours.
Let's all join Keith.
Okay. All right. We are back on.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 95 Dune Road, Holding Corp., 94 Dune Road in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-385-3-37.3. Okay, refresh my memory what Mr. Bennett had said.
Mr. Bennett had said that we needed to come back here and do a lead agency resolution for secret purposes, which I do have prepared. But because it was also noticed, if there was anybody here to speak about it, they could. Otherwise, we would do the lead agency resolution and then adjourn it for like 6 months while we wait for the secret to finish.
Okay, so what's the chairman want to do?
Well, I have the secret determination, so
Why don't you read it?
I will read it. Okay. So, this is a secret resolution for 94 Dune Road Holding Court. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals has received an application on behalf of 94 Dune Road Holding Court to permit a change from one non-conforming use, one-story frame building with second-floor office, restaurant/bar, marina with tennis courts, decks, and parking, to another 25-unit multi-family condominium use with a swimming pool and accessory building. And whereas after a review of the submittals, the ZBA found that this project is a Type 1 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQRA), and Southampton Town Code, and coordinated review with the following involved agencies by letter dated July 15, 2020, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Southampton Town Planning Board, Suffolk County, and the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And whereas the Southampton Town Planning Board requested lead agency status in connection with the secret review of this project, now therefore be it resolved that the Southampton Town ZBA hereby agrees that the Southampton Town Planning Board should assume lead agency status with regards to the application of 94 Dune Road Holding Corp. Pursuant to 6 New York CRR Section 617.6B, and be it further resolved that this board directs that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to all involved agencies.
Second.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Ms. Sessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Mike, you need to be unmuted.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, and
That was Keith Tuttle. Keith Tuttle votes aye too.
Before we move on to the next point of business, I believe Jim Hume has the final 3 applications that we're going to hear tonight, which I'm obviously going to be recused on. We only have 1 decision after that. Would you guys mind if we did the decision now before we moved on to the other next applications? And then I will bid you all good night.
We can do that, but before I do that, I just want to make sure.
Is there anybody from the
Dune Road Holding Court?
right?
There's someone from the public waiting to be heard. This is the application of 94 Dune Road Holding Court for 94 Dune Road in East Quogue.
I don't see any hands. There's 2 people, but I don't see any hands.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So Katie, you had you said 6 months, which would be in March,
Yeah, I think there's a meeting on March 4th.
September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yes. I'm sorry, March 4th?
I think so. Candace, does that sound right? Is there a date, March 4th?
I'm checking for you right now. Yes, March 4th.
March 4th.
Perfect.
Okay, so I was that we adjourn the application of 94 Dune Road Holding Corp. For all purposes until our March 4th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Tessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. So we have one more decision.
Okay. This is for the application of BH 680 LLC, tax map 900, 67-1, lot 6.5. This application is for property located at 680 Scuttle Hole Road in Watermill. Applicant seeks a lot area variance for Lot 2 for Lot 2 of a proposed two-lot subdivision and stated that they will preserve and landmark the existing dwelling on the lot with support from the Landmarks and Historic Districts Board. This request passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, to allow Lot 2 of a proposed two-lot subdivision to have a lot area of 43,382 square feet, where a minimum of 80,000 square feet is required, as shown on the survey prepared by Michael J. Rayner of the Rayner Group, PLLC, prepared November 21st, 2019. This decision is conditioned upon the designation of the existing dwelling by the town board as an historic landmark prior to the signature of the final subdivision map by the planning board. The filing of a covenant on Lot 2 prior to the signature of the final subdivision map by the planning board, subject to form approved by the town attorney's office, stating that the dwelling has been designated a landmark, that the building shall not be demolished, removed, or raised, and that any construction, repairs, or renovations proposed to the dwelling must be reviewed and approved by the Southampton Town Landmark and Historic Districts Board or successors in interest. And 3, any recommendations made by the LHDB in their report to the town board, including but not limited to enhancing structure visibility from the foliage and landscape plantings at the corner prospect and fall gate area. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Kelly.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Burgess.
No.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
A qualified aye. I did not want to see that lot developed. However, understanding that the owner could develop it by going through the planning board and not preserving the historic home on the lot, I feel compelled to vote an aye on this.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Chair votes no. I have one more decision, which is the decision on the application of OPH Building Corp. for Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-17277. This application is for property located at 30 Linda Lane, Noyak. Applicant seeks variances to construct a proposed garage and two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot burdened by 2 front yards. In response to a request from this board, the applicant increased the setbacks for the proposed garage, thereby reducing the rear yard lot coverage and pyramid encroachment. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants applicant relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for the proposed two-story dwelling, relief from Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height, for encroachment in the amount of 725.18 cubic feet, 389.76 cubic feet southeast corner, and 335.42 cubic feet northeast corner. And 2, for the proposed garage, relief from Town Code 330-115D, continuance, for an accessory distance from street setback front yard of 34.4 feet where 50 feet is permitted, and Town Code 330-84D for an encroachment in the amount of 332.04 cubic feet. This board also grants relief from Town Code 330-77D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts for a rear yard lot coverage of 24.95%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by John Minto Land Surveying, dated March 26, 2020, last revised July 21st, 2020, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by architect Todd O'Connell of Todd O'Connell AIA, dated June 9th, 2019, last revised August 29th, 2020. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Kelly. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Sessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, I guess you're leaving us, Cornelius.
Yeah, I'm recused on the final 3 applications tonight. So thank you all. Thanks very much for doing the decisions. Thanks.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Bye, Cornelia.
Bye.
Take care, bub. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna do the next 3 together. That's a correct assumption on my part?
I would think so.
Okay, so on the agenda is item 9, 10, and 11 we'll be doing together. Item 9 is Production Holding LLC and Tyrone Tertullian. Item 10 on the agenda is Tyrone Tertullian and 57 Station Road. 9 was 57 and 61 Station Road, so you guys know West Hampton. And item 11 is Production Holding LLC, 61 Station Road, West Hampton.
Okay, Jim.
James?
Jim, you just have to turn on your volume. We can't hear you. Can't hear you. You have to unmute.
We're sending Cornelius over to your house to help you unmute.
He's unmuted. He just needs to turn up the volume.
Okay.
Turn up the volume.
Still can't hear you. Nope, can't hear you.
Hey, let's bring him back another time. Bang the gavel.
How about now?
You gotcha. Gotcha.
I had it set on the wrong microphone. Sorry. So for the applicant, James N. Hume, 323 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach. Good evening, you all. Thank you for your continued attention to this matter. As you'll recall from last time we were here, this is an application for a 2-lot subdivision that is spread over 3 different variance applications. The first application being for the basic relief needed to create the 2 lots. We went over that last time. And then separate variance applications for the lots, if created, to allow certain structures to continue to exist. We still owe you some stuff from the surveyor, some technical stuff, which I've been working on with the surveyor to try to get, but haven't had much luck so far, but will. But I did want to go over 2 different things tonight. The first is, I believe the last time you referred this back to the planning board for comment, and I appeared in front of the planning board last week or the week before about that, and it turned out that our pre-application report from the planning board had expired. So after discussion with the planning board, they readopted and extended the pre-application report that they generated, and it's now set to expire in October of 2021. And I believe as part of my application, I have provided the original report, which has not changed in any, they didn't alter it, I don't believe, in any way, shape, or form. The one thing they did highlight for me at the meeting was their recommendation that the variance relief for the 1-story frame barn, they were not generally in favor of that. However, they did recognize that we were in front of the zoning board for the variances to allow just that. And I guess would ultimately defer to your decision whether or not to permit that or not, as far as the barn structure located on, I think it's 57 Station Road, tax lot number 18.7. The other thing I wanted to address is I did do a little bit of research amongst the Tertullian family to find out how the 1-story concrete building on the west side of the west lot came to be, and the conversion of the 1-story frame barn on the east lot came to be. And what I discovered was that both of those items were dealt with, caused to happen by Mr. Tyrone Turchinian's father, who is a number of years deceased. So I know that Mr. Grossman had indicated that they like to talk to the person who actually caused these non-conforming changes non-permitted changes to take place. But since he's passed away, I don't think I can produce him, as it were. It would be pretty cool if I could, I guess. But anyway, the one-story concrete building on the west side of the west lot is and has been since its construction in it was at least there as early as 1979, as it appears as a proposed structure on my Exhibit C to the packets that I filed in this matter. And it was built, well, to take a step back, as we discussed last time, there was a rather large lot that included the 2 lots that are the subject of this application and what became 3 lots to the west of the subject lots. That in the 70s had been one gigantic lot. There was a subdivision in 1978 that divided that huge lot into 2 lots. The lot number 1 was ultimately subdivided into 3 other lots, and lot number 2 now contains the two lots that we're seeking to subdivide right now. I don't know if you have any of those maps in front of you, but at the time of the original large 2-lot subdivision, there was a shed structure that straddled the property line that was proposed at that time and approved at that time. And the condition of that subdivision was that shed structure be removed and relocated to a conforming location. It was, as I said, by the end of 1979, removed and replaced. I'm not sure that the location that it was put in then, which is the same location as now, was conforming then, but it was certainly no longer straddling the property line. And since then has been used as a garage and storage building. The barn structure, which is on the rear of the eastern lot, was covered by the CO that was originally issued for all of these properties as a barn. The conversion to a living space took place again in the early 1980s by Mr. Turchinian Sr., and over time had been occupied by Turchinian family members as well as third parties as a residence. And so that, in a nutshell, is the history of those 2 buildings. And as I indicated also, I think last time, there had been an attempt to subdivide these properties ahead of the upzoning, which made the lots substandard, and that went far enough apparently to get the assessor's office to assign tax lot numbers to each of these lots, but for some reason was never completed. And I never really found much of a record in the village's files, but I do have in my file an exchange between Mr. Turchinian Sr. and a local attorney whose name escapes me at the moment about the progress of that subdivision, but why it was never completed or whatever happened to it is lost in the deep dark past. But you know, the structures as they exist now have been in use for almost that I have described for almost 40 years now. So I mean, obviously they're the passage of time doesn't make them conforming, but they've certainly been put to the uses as described for a substantial period of time without complaint or without complaint from any of the neighbors. And the other thing I would point out is that the barn conversion to residential use, as well as the other structure, abuts the Long Island Railroad right of way, so there aren't really any neighbors to the north that are impacted by the residential use. And the barn is in close proximity to the dividing line that we are seeking for our subdivision, so it really only affects the other lot that's part of our application. And the block storage building replaced a CO storage shed that was in generally the same location, but across the property line. As best I can tell from looking at the various surveys that I've submitted, is that the new build, I call it a new building, it is 40 years old, is not really any larger space than the existing CO'd shed that it replaced contained. So those were the items that you had wanted some more information about. So that's what I've been able to glean.
Appreciate your efforts in getting all that information together, Jeff. So the application appears to be what it is, and I think, speaking for myself, concerns I had, I think you've given at least information about the structures that were built or expanded without approvals. I understand you're not able to bring anybody in to be able to give us any information about how that happened. So with that, we have to, I think, just take the application as it is. And I'm not sure whether other board members are as to whether there are any concerns about the structures on the property and the proposed locations of the structures. So I just wanted to ask if there are any board comments or concerns.
I think it was very helpful tonight, Jim, for that information. I think I want to review all that from what you submitted and this, but it does help clarify some of the questions as to, in my mind, that even though they've been there potentially without a permit, they've been there through a time where maybe permitting wasn't necessary to some extent, potentially. So that's, not that it makes it easy, but it's good to have that information to base our decision on.
Jim, when do you expect to have the two separate surveys? Because I feel like that's also going to be easier for the board to process, the nonconformities on these lots.
I'm working with Floyd Carrington on that, and there was a whole bunch of other technical issues that were raised by the building department as well. I'm hoping within the next 30 days to be able to get all of that together and get that in. So perhaps we can adjourn it for that purpose or for all purposes, whatever the board's pleasure is.
We would be adjourning it anyway until October 5th for written subs and 10/15 for decisions. So it wouldn't actually, that time period would be consistent with what we'd be doing regardless.
Okay. That would be fine.
But I think it would be nice. I think it would be nice for the board to be able to see, these driveways eliminated. I mean, right now it still very much looks like these properties are used together.
Yeah, I'm not actually looking for you to close it. With my submissions, I'm actually suggesting that it remain open to the next adjourn date so that you can get a good look at
I'd like that
everything. Too. I think that's there's a lot here. I get it. And the next materials that I'm going to provide may create some other questions. So I think I would suggest we leave it open for all purposes so that we can have that discussion.
That's a good idea.
That's fine. And then if we leave it open, I'm thinking we could leave it open until October 15th. That would give you time to get the survey of the separate lots together.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions and members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who is waiting to be heard on Zoom this evening in connection with the 3 applications that are being done in a single public hearing, being Tyrone Turchunian and Production Holdings LLC for 57/61 Station Road in West Hampton, the application of Turchunian for 57 Station Road in West Hampton, And then the third application is for Production Holdings LLC for 61 Station Road in Westfield. Is there anyone waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with any of or all of these applications?
Charles?
See none. Nobody here.
Okay, all right. If not, then I would move that we adjourn all three applications for all purposes until our October 15th meeting.
Second.
Okay. Who seconded? Brian?
Brian.
Brian, okay. Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Daly?
Aye.
Mahan?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Tuthill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Good night to you all.
Have a good night, Jim.
Yes, we'll see you soon.
And with that, we finished the decisions already. So unless there's anything else, I think we can
Motion to close.
close.
Second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.